Hello all and welcome, and I am the mgtowphilosopher, and in this video I would like to talk about the new Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi. Quite possibly the worst movie I have ever seen. Now this movie was, in my opinion, nothing more than a vehicle for delivering social justice warrior propaganda. Feminism, the message of diversity, intersectionality, and other nonsense that you'll only get from the left, such as feminism, which was a big part of what this movie was all about, which is also what a big part of being a social justice warrior is all about. Cultural Marxism, essentially, feminism, uber-feminism, and the main character, Rey, who is a Mary Sue to the umpteenth degree. And for those of you who do not know what a Mary Sue is a character who's perfect in every way. She does everything perfect, picks up new things without effort, no real challenge, everything is easy for her. And the movie starts out, by the way, with a space battle, of course. Star Wars is famous for those. The first Star Wars movies didn't use CGI, and in my opinion, those were the best-looking space battles. But regardless, you can't expect movie makers today to go to the extent of actually using models and such to make stuff look more realistic, because that would be just too much trouble. No, let's just be lazy and use CGI. So at the start, we have the enemy, the First Order, which is a totally generic enemy. They have no face to me. Who are they? Where did they come from? We're left to wonder about this. It's never explained. Are they a remnant of the Empire? And if they're just a remnant, how did they become so powerful? How did they build some kind of gigantic planet-sized base that could shoot death rays into hyperspace? Death rays that, by the way, that when they exited hyperspace could split into multiple beams and hit multiple planets and multiple systems. All these planets, I guess, supposedly populated by the rebel government that was set up after. And was the rebel government running the galaxy now with its own senate and such? Or were they just like one of many different splinter forces that were controlling different parts of the galaxy? We don't know. We don't know where the First Order came from. We don't know where Snoke came from. And by the way, at this point, you're going to want to turn this video off if you're planning to see the movie, but you don't want to hear spoilers, because there's going to be a lot of spoilers. Hell, I'm going to spoil the whole fucking movie if you've already seen it. Of course, in my opinion, the movie came pre-spoiled. This smelly piece of crap was spoiled before I even went to see it. Horrible movie. So the movie starts with the enemy, who is, of course, gigantic and huge in size. Yes, once these handful of rebel planets were destroyed, somehow the rebels, and how resistance, rebellion, why are they the resistance and the rebellion anyway? Why are they being called the resistance? I don't get this. I mean, the Empire was destroyed, right? So aren't they the main government now? Wouldn't the First Order be the resistance or the rebellion? I don't get it. Anyway, it's not worth getting into. There's so little that's explained. Movie starts, the First Order, or the real resistance, whatever you want to call it, is attacking the rebel resistance, whatever the hell they're supposed to be called, base. And they're evacuating that base. And essentially, as they're being evacuated, they launch a counterattack led by Poe Dameron, of course. And Poe Dameron attacks, but they're all getting, of course, destroyed. The odds are against them. They're completely outnumbered, of course. That's always the case. Even though they're not supposed to be the rebellion, they're supposed to be the big main government. They defeated the Empire, but they have no ships. Okay. Of course. Anyway, they're attacking, and they have bombers. I don't know what, that drop ordnance on the ships in space. How does that work when there's no gravity? None of this makes any sense. They're launching bombers that have to fly over the enemy spaceships, and then they drop bombs onto the ship. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, really, because you're flying in, blow up the bomber, and none of those bombs get through to the ship. If they do, the enemy has shields. Why not just have missiles? And then you're firing hundreds, if not thousands, of missiles. They got a hell of a lot better chance of getting through than a single ship. You blow that up, all of your ordnance is gone, and the enemy doesn't have to worry. Anyway, this makes no sense. There's no gravity in space anyway. Why would it matter? You're flying over a ship and dropping bombs. You're flying beside it. I mean, it makes no sense. But anyway, to suspend your disbelief and, science and whatever else. So these ships are being flown by pilots, and one of these pilots is a Paige Tycho, female, of course, and you have Poe Dameron, who's leading the attack. And he, of course, is the screw up, the fuck up. He is the we don't like him guy. He's the hot-headed pilot who has no self-control, and the hero of the attack is actually a woman. Of course! This whole movie is about making heroes of women and letting men know you can't be the hero anymore. You're always trying to hog the spotlight and be the hero and take away a woman's chance to be the hero. Well, no more. So they're attacking, they're getting blown to bits, and they are ordered to retreat, and Poe says, no, we're going to have the opportunity to destroy a dreadnought. I don't know what the big deal is. It's a big ship, I guess. The dreadnought was a big ship, and he's like, a feather in my cap, I can destroy this dreadnought. And he just goes ahead, and half their fleet gets destroyed. But one bomber gets through, piloted by this amazing special Asian chick. Yeah, another galaxy far, far away. All the humans are human-looking people. There are all these different races and ethnicities and all that. And, of course, the movie itself has to have all these different races. And, I mean, why? Why? What is with all of this diversity that's a requirement? Oh, well, we just have to have more diversity in the movie. Of course, because it's a social justice warrior love fest. So this Asian chick by the name of Paige Tycho, which, by the way, I never even hear the left talking about Asians. They're not an oppressed class, are they? They never talk about Asians. They never talk about them. The Asian privilege that gets them a minus 200 or minus 225 or minus 250 score on their SATs when they apply to college because they do too well on SATs. We have to take off 250 points. But black people, no, we need to give them an extra 250 points. Yeah. Of course, we had the token black man as well, the fool, the dancing fool, Finn, who was a fool in this movie too, fool in the last movie, a bumbling idiot clown. And we have the Asian Paige Tycho. She gets the one bomber through, bombs the dreadnought, of course, destroys the dreadnought. Dreadnought's gone. And, Poe Dameron, of course, survives. She dies, of course, because the movie is trying to send you the message that women are the ones that sacrifice themselves, not men. Okay? Yeah. Again, let me repeat that. This movie is automatically trying to flip roles and make women out to be the ones who are necessary, important, who do the most, and who sacrifice themselves, not men. And by the way, I'm not going to spend this whole video doing a point-by-point of the entire movie. It would take 2 hours. I'm just going to focus on the points in the movie that are blatantly so feminist and ridiculous, which is almost the whole movie. So, but anyway, so Poe gets back to the fleet. He survived. Yes, he lived, and all these ships, evacuation ships, made it out. And they jump into hyperspace, and he talks to Leia Organa Solo, and she's like, "You disobeyed orders. I'm demoting you. Get the hell out of here." Okay. So he managed to get through. He manages to destroy the dreadnought and give the fleet more time to escape. But he is the bad guy. Now, by the way, he's the guy that's out there in the field. So he knows what to do. He's got the best perspective. But, oh, no, I'm going to demote you. Okay, we got away free and clear. But you disobeyed orders, so you automatically have to be demoted, you dumb man. I am a woman, and I'm in charge of you, of course, so you must be demoted. So automatically Poe's the bad guy, but this chick Paige Tycho who survived, she's now a hero. Seeing a trend yet? Well, you're going to continue to see this trend throughout this whole video. Anyhow, what happens next is that somehow, some way, the impossible happens, and the First Order finds some way to track them through hyperspace. It's impossible. You can't be tracked through hyperspace, but somehow the First Order's found a way. And by the way, the way that they tracked the Resistance fleet that managed to escape, it's never mentioned. This movie is all about explaining nothing. Like I said, it's just about delivering social justice warrior propaganda, leftist groupthink propaganda, feminist propaganda. So they're fleeing in hyperspace, right? And this movie very, very much mirrors The Empire Strikes Back. mean, there's no originality. These movies are just rip-offs of The Empire Strikes Back. The fleeing the rebel base and running in space and fleeing is exactly the same as when Han Solo in The Empire Strikes Back was running in that rickety, beat-up piece of junk, the Millennium Falcon, and his light speed failed, and then he's able to hide, and then they start to destroy the asteroid belt, and the Empire finds him again, and he flees again. It's all this cat and mouse, back and forth. Same thing, exact same thing mirrored when the rebels flee their base and are running through hyperspace, and then they're able to track them somehow. The First Order is able to track them, and the First Order finds them again, and then chases them, and then of course, but now they can't flee in hyperspace. Not because their hyperdrive doesn't work, but because they're being tracked. But it's the same thing. Now they can't flee in hyperspace, and they have to do a cat and mouse through space. And but since they're faster than the Star Destroyers, dreadnoughts, whatever, same vehicles used by the Empire, but they're not the Empire. Again, nothing's ever explained in this movie. So essentially, they're like, oh well, we can't flee hyperspace. If we go into hyperspace, they'll just find us again. So let's just zip along at light speed, or whatever speed, not light speed, I don't know, in real space, not in hyperspace, but as fast as we can go, and the Star Destroyers can't keep up with us. So they're flying through space for 18 hours. They have 18 hours of fuel, and they're fleeing. They're fleeing away from the First Order. Yeah, that's a brilliant plan. Anyway, then you cut to Ahch-To, where Luke is, and he's, he's facing Rey. They shoot back to the scene where she hands him the lightsaber, and he tosses it over his shoulder. He walks away, and then she follows him, and she tries to convince him to train her. And essentially, he doesn't train her. He didn't do anything. The entirety of training Rey was she sat down, and he says, "What do you feel? Reach out with the Force. What do you feel? I feel darkness. I see darkness. I see light. Blah, blah, blah." And then she finds the dark side on the planet and possibly plunges into the dark side, but Luke tells her to resist it. And this is a mirroring of Luke's scene when he went to Dagobah and he went to see Yoda, and he sensed darkness and he felt cold, and Yoda said, "That place, it's full of the dark side, it is, and in you must go." And Luke goes in, and he tells him, "You don't need your weapons." And Luke just grins and takes his weapons with him. And so this movie is a complete ripoff of The Empire Strikes Back, except Rey's training, guess how long it lasts. Now, in The Empire Strikes Back, nobody knows how long Luke's training lasted. It lasted about as long as it took for Han and Leia to escape from the Empire, then get followed by Boba Fett to Cloud City, where they spent time, and it could have lasted days or a couple weeks. We don't know how long they actually flew through space without their hyperdrive working to get to Cloud City. But at most, it was a couple weeks. So we take it possibly a couple weeks of Luke training with Yoda, and when he left, he wasn't fully trained. He couldn't use the Force very well, and he lost to Darth Vader. Now, you compare that to Rey. She had 18 hours training. She had 18 hours training. She spent 18 hours on the planet, and the Mary Sue she is, that she's able to do everything perfectly. This uber-powerful Mary Sue, who everything she tries to do, there's no challenge. It's all so freaking easy. She leaves. "I have to help my friends," just like Luke left. Yoda, "I have to help my friends." Yes. She had an image of them in trouble. She had a vision. "My friends, they're in trouble. I need to go help them." La da 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 da. And so she leaves to help her friends, of course. And Luke, like Yoda had, stayed behind. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but what I wanted as a Star Wars fan was to see Luke kicking ass. Luke is this powerful Jedi master. He's supposed to be the most powerful there is. And by the way, this movie made him into a pussy. Luke became a pussy. During her 18 hours or whatever on this Ahch-To, it was like a day. She spent no more than a day there, it seems. She attacks Luke and beats him in a fight. It's unbelievable. This is so ridiculous. She spars with him with her little staff, and he manages to disarm, and then she calls her lightsaber, and Luke falls on his ass trembling and almost looking like he's trembling in terror, like having a, oh, don't hurt me, look on his face. Are you kidding me? So, recap. She goes to the planet. She has one training session where he tells her just to reach out with your feelings. And now she's a Jedi Master. She's so powerful, she could defeat Luke Skywalker, the most powerful Jedi to ever live, in a melee fight, just like that. You want to talk about Mary freaking Sue? Holy shit. That's total nonsense. And this is just the entire movie. This feminist mumbo jumbo. She's a woman. She could beat any man. Just like these stupid movies you see with these chicks, these 110-pound soaking wet chicks beating up 300-pound muscular guys. It's absurdity. So, during her little 18-hour stay on the planet, she got all the training a Jedi needs. And, of course, she could do everything before she came there. Yeah, she's perfect, Mary Sue. So, after 18 hours on the planet, she becomes a Jedi Master because she could beat the Jedi Master. And then she leaves. Yeah, she leaves to go help her friends. Just like Luke left Dagobah to go help his friends. And even though when he left, he was still very weak and he got beat up by Darth Vader. But, Mary Sue! She faced Ben Solo, who has trained all his life, and in the first movie beat his ass. Yeah, without any training, without Luke telling her, stretch out with your feelings, which was pretty much the entirety of her training on Ahch-To. Oh my God, this movie's so bad. So at that point, Rey leaves after she can't convince Luke to come with her to join the resistance, rebels, whatever they're supposed to be. And we cut back to the rebel resistance fleet, rebel fleet, whatever, that's fleeing in real space, not hyperspace, because apparently, since they can be tracked, it's pointless to go into hyperspace. Yeah, because they're too low on fuel anyway, and it would use up too much fuel. So we're just going to stay in real space and flee, and we're faster than these Star Destroyers in real space. So even though Star Destroyers have huge engines, and I don't know. I don't know what none of it makes any sense. So they're fleeing. They have limited time. So it's been less than 18 hours. Because they have 18 hours worth of fuel. You cut scene between Luke and her giving him the, what's her name? Rey giving Luke the lightsaber, and to them, and the First Order attacking the rebel base, and you cut scene back. Not even 18 hours have passed. So it might have been less than 18 hours she was on Ahch-To with Luke. And so she, as Rey goes to confront Ben Solo, the way that Luke went to confront Darth Vader, Leia, who was blown out into space from the initial attack on the rebel fleet, resistance fleet, whatever, but she managed to use the Force to pull herself back to the ship, and then she was put in stasis, or she was in a coma or something. Her position was taken over by Admiral Holdo. Oh, God. And this character, Admiral Holdo, looks nothing like a military person. She's got this long flowing gown. She's got this freaking giraffe-like neck that's so freaking long. She has purple hair. Purple hair! No, and she hates men. She hates men. She shows scorn and derision to every man around her. She is a man-hating feminist. She couldn't have been more of a feminist cunt than she was. And she had purple hair. I mean, this movie is so obvious. So let's not make it more... in fact, let's make it more obvious than we possibly could that she's a man-hating cunt feminist. Let's give her purple hair. That's what I've always said. Any broad that has purple hair is a feminist. And this chick was an uber feminist. Okay? And she comes up with some plan to discreetly evacuate the remaining resistance members by using small transports. Apparently, large Star Destroyers that are super advanced don't have the type of sensors that can detect really small ships. Which, if that's the case, just attack them with a bunch of X-Wings and they'll never see them and destroy them. But anyway, again, it makes no sense. So she tries to evacuate. They're very close to a planet that supposedly used to have a resistance base on it that would allow them to hide and defend themselves better. So she says, okay, we're going to evacuate with a lot of smaller ships, and these smaller ships have no shields, and they're totally open to being attacked and destroyed by long-range fire. We're on this gigantic ship that has shields they can't penetrate, and that's managing to stay ahead of the enemy. But instead of staying here, we're going to evacuate in many smaller craft that can be destroyed with a single blaster shot from a Star Destroyer. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, huh? And, of course, Poe Dameron, he says, no, bad plan, I don't agree. So he instigates a mutiny and apprehends Holdo and her command staff because she is an uber man-hating cunt who doesn't know anything about how to fight. She's clearly not a fighter, but somehow she became an admiral. And I believe her and Leia were having a lesbian relationship. Her and Leia are so freaking close the way they act, it looks like they're lesbian lovers. Yes, that's right, Leia has become a lesbian in this movie. Meanwhile, we cut back to Rey, who delivers herself to the supremacy, Snoke, and Kylo Ren, who is Ben Solo. And she's slapped in irons and, cut back. What's his name? Finn and Poe Dameron come up with a plan. And there's some chick named Rose involved, too. Some fat little Chinese broad, big fat little ugly Chinese woman named Rose, who's the sister of the Page, Tycho broad, who was the one bomber pilot that managed to get through and destroy the enemy's dreadnought. And, of course, she's a hero, too. Don't you know, it runs in the family. And only women can be heroes in this movie. So her and Finn are sent to get, after speaking to that named Maz Kanata. Of course, she's the Yoda of this new Star Wars series. Had to be a woman, of course. They couldn't have a Yoda-like character in these new 3 movies that was a man. All the heroes are women, don't you see? Maz Kanata's a woman, and Maz Kanata shows up, and, the Resistance is talking to her, and she tells them that there's some kind of slicer hacker who can infiltrate, that can get past all the security inside one of the main Star Destroyers that are attacking the Resistance fleet and chasing them through normal space. And so Poe Dameron sends Finn and the fat little Rose to the place, some casino that Maz Kanata tells them there's some hacker at that can help them hack into the First Order's computer system and disable their ability to track the Resistance fleet through hyperspace. Now, this is during this 18-hour window in which Rey is getting her quote-unquote training. And so they leave the ship. Fat little Rose, the sister of the broad that destroyed the dreadnought, and Finn, the clown jester, and they go to this casino. They find their slicer hacker. They come back, all within that 18-hour time frame. They manage to smuggle themselves onto the First Order's main ship that's chasing the fleet, the one that has the tracking device. How they would know which ship has a tracker on it, I don't know, but somehow they figure it out. They have this information. We never know how they know any of this stuff. Anyway, it's during this same period that Rey delivers herself to Kylo Ren, a.k.a. Ben Solo, and then she's presented to, you guessed it, Snoke. What a horrible name, by the way. Sounds like Snork. It makes me think of snorkel. Like when you go swimming and you need a snorkel. Anyway, she presents herself, and of course, suddenly she's now not so tough. She beat up Luke Skywalker, the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy, but faced by Snoke, oh no, she's just this whimpering little cowardly thing, and he, removes everything in this movie. It's an exact copy of Empire. Well, it's exact copy. They're taking little bits and scenes from other movies. This is an exact copy of the scene from Return of the Jedi where Luke faces the Emperor. Well, they've imported that into the second movie and put her in the movie to face Snoke, i.e., a stand-in for, somebody who was actually a good villain, which was the Emperor Palpatine. And yada, yada, you're powerful, join us. Same spiel that the Emperor gave Luke. She says no, and he starts to torture her and all that. And then he makes her kneel down, and he's like, okay, Ren, kill her, because, for whatever reason, he can't kill people, so Ren has to kill her. And instead of killing her, Kylo Ren, meaning Ben Solo, he somehow has the Force ability to push the button on a lightsaber. So first, this is so hilarious. He kills Snoke instead of killing Rey. That's right. He kills Snoke by, you see, Snoke took Rey's lightsaber and he put it on the arm of the chair that he was sitting in. And Kylo, using the Force, made the lightsaber slowly turn so that the emitter was facing Snoke. And then he used the Force to push the ignition button. And the blade went right into Snoke. And then he called the blade to himself. And as the blade flew through the air toward him, it passed right through Snoke and finished essentially eviscerating him. So Snoke was cut in half, and then Rey catches it, and him and Rey fight all the Praetorian guards, whatever, all the guys dressed in red that were supposed to be there to guard and protect Snoke. Brilliant, huh? Yeah. And of course, Rey was able to beat up all these professional fighters. Some of them might have had Force abilities because some of them used lightsabers. And remember, Kylo Ren took some of Luke's students with him, and we of course we don't know what happens to the Knights of Ren. Were these people dressed in red? Were some of them the Knights of Ren? Were they all Force users? Were some of them Force users? Some of them must have been Force users because some of them were using lightsabers. Some of them were using lightsaber whips or Force whips, and I mean, so it's hard to say because, of course, they don't explain anything in this movie. It's just a vehicle for delivering a propaganda and indoctrination message. That's all. And, of course, Rey was able to beat him. Of course, she's Mary Sue. She can defeat anybody. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering who Rey's parents were, we found out. They were just insignificant junkers who sold her to that big fat blob on the planet where we first see her on in the first movie, essentially selling junk for food. That guy that was behind the counter, we see the parents flying away, and essentially those are the people. They sold her to that guy for drinking money and such, and now they're dead in some pauper's grave somewhere. So Rey is a nobody. She's a poor, oppressed person. Do you see the message here? So she comes from nothing, she's a nobody, and she's going to save everyone and everything. This oppressed girl, woman, nobody, come from the poorest of the poor, junker, loser family. Are you getting the message yet? Is this movie pushing the message into your face quite enough? The poor, the downtrodden, the disenfranchised, these pathetic, oppressed people, they're really the real saviors. Yes, let's open the porters and let them all in. Meanwhile, back on the ships where, what's his name, Poe Dameron and his other mutineers are trying to essentially save everybody, so that, the dumb plan that Holdo has of putting everybody in little tiny transports that supposedly will be undetectable to the sensors of the First Order. How they know that, I don't know. I guess the same way they know where the tracking device is and which ship it's on and where it is on that ship. They somehow know that if they launch little tiny ships out of this big giant ship that actually has shields, that they'll somehow be protected. And so Holdo manages to get the upper hand with the help of Leia, who awakens from her coma because, of course, she's Leia and she's a woman, and being in the vacuum of space where she should have been frozen into a popsicle apparently didn't kill her or even slow her down that much. So Holdo, the purple-haired feminist, and her lover, which it looks to me like they're lovers, Leia, get back together and they evacuate the large ship. Okay? Now, as far as what happened between Rey and Ben Solo, a.k.a. Kylo Ren, after they fought, it turns out that Ben didn't turn back to the light side. He just wanted to kill Snoke so he could take his place, which is what Vader wanted to do to the Emperor, but he wasn't powerful enough. But Kylo Ren, he in his mind succeeded where Vader had failed, destroying his master and taking his place, and then him and Rey struggle for the lightsaber. He has a lightsaber, and then she's trying to grab it. And he's trying to hold on to it with the Force, and she's trying to hold on with the Force. And they're both equally powerful, even though, he's had a lifetime of training and she's had all of 18 hours. They destroy the lightsaber. Those things hold a lot of energy, so it exploded. And he's knocked unconscious, and when he wakes up, Rey's gone. And then when the General Hux, whatever his name is, shows up and asks, what happened to the Supreme Leader Snoke? He says that she killed him. Yeah, of course it's possible, because she's a Mary Sue, and she's good at everything, don't you know? And then he becomes the Grand Leader of the First Order, taking Snoke's place. Meanwhile, the Joker jester fool Finn, who we were led to believe might also become a Jedi at some point, as he fought with a lightsaber in the first movie. Of course, now we know he's not. He's a jester fool. There's no men in this movie that are going to become Jedi. There's no male heroes in these movies. All the heroes in these movies are females. Well, they get captured, of course, because he's a jester fool, and the fat little feminist Rose gets captured with him. Okay? So they don't manage to disable the tracking device once they smuggle themselves onto the ship, and they get caught. And it's during this period that the First Order somehow figures out how to track the tiny little ships that have launched themselves from the big ship. And of course, Admiral, I don't know how she's an admiral. She doesn't look like a military person. She's not a military person. She's just some woman with a grand gown on and purple hair, stays aboard the giant cruiser that was carrying all the remnants of the rebels, resistance, whatever, that had managed to escape in the beginning of the movie and had been running ever since. Once the First Order, they're the same goddamn thing, really. This whole goddamn movie is the same. It's a rip-off of the first three movies. Anyway, after they've been tracked through hyperspace and now they're running, she stays behind. The captain never leaves the ship. The woman is becoming the hero. Here's another woman hero, Holdo, stays behind. And Leia and everybody else leaves on 30 or so little evacuation ships and flies unseen toward a planet where there's an old rebel base that has long since been abandoned. But somehow, during that period, the Star Destroyers find a way to track the tiny little ships, and then they start destroying them. Boom, 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 destroying the ships. Okay, I thought they couldn't track them. It appears that their intelligence about these First Order not being able to track these small ships from a distance was wrong. And of course, Holdo, the ugly cunt feminist bitch, purple-haired feminist, seeing that all these little ships are getting destroyed, being the hero that women are, she manages to pilot the ship, turn it around, activate the hyperdrive, and fly like a fucking bullet through the First Order's main flagship and destroy it, along with some other ships. Interesting. Yeah. See, I always thought that hyperspace, you entered hyperspace, you're flying through another dimension or something. That was my impression, that it was a type of wormhole thing. But apparently you somehow stay in real space. I don't know how that works. But anyway, she flew through the enemy ships and destroyed them, therefore, thereby dying a hero. Of course, it had to be a woman that would be the hero. This movie has no male heroes. Even Luke Skywalker isn't a hero in this movie. He turns out to be a bad guy. Because what I didn't tell you is that in the scene, the vision that Rey had that made her go and seek out Kylo Ren, was Luke Skywalker 10 years before standing over a sleeping Ben Solo with an ignited lightsaber ready to kill him. And it turns out that Luke saw darkness in Kylo Ren and he feared him. And because of what had happened to his father, he feared that Ren might turn to the dark side. So he contemplated killing Kylo Ren, but he would have never actually gone through with it. But during that time, Ren woke up, saw him with the lightsaber, ignited his, and attacked Luke Skywalker, and then ran from the school. And that's what made Ben Solo become Kylo Ren. This belief that he'd been betrayed, that he was going to be killed by Luke Skywalker, sort of pushed him over the edge to the dark side. And at that point, when he saw Luke with the lightsaber, who was thinking that Luke was going to attack him, then he attacked Luke, somehow used a force push, the like of which nobody's ever seen, to blow Luke through a wall and bury him under rubble. And then he proceeded to destroy the Jedi Temple. It's not explained how he destroyed the temple. And we saw afterwards that he had all these Knights of Ren with him. Supposedly, at that point, he'd already met Snoke, and he was in the process of being converted to the dark side, which is why Luke saw the darkness in him. But that isn't explained. We have to essentially speculate. The movie doesn't explain anything, okay? Except this, that the person we had always thought to be a hero was actually the villain of the movie. So Luke Skywalker, a man who was the great savior, great hero of the rebellion, was the bad guy in this movie. Of course, the great male hero was the bad guy. And Ren, he didn't get turned from the dark side. He became a new bad guy, the new big uber bad guy, as he took on the mantle of supreme leader. Meanwhile, thanks to Holdo's, the gigantic giraffe-necked, purple-haired feminist, flying her ship through all these enemy ships, she gave the remaining resistance fighters in their little escape ships enough time to get down to the planet and make their way into the abandoned rebel outpost. And they closed these gigantic doors, and then they waited. And they didn't have to wait long, because of course, Rose and Finn managed to escape. Of course! And they were able to do this because of Holdo's attack and damaging the main First Order ship, which they were on, of course. So, of course, again, Holdo allowed Finn and Rose, her actions had multiple ripple effects, all of them good, all of them positive. So Finn and Rose managed to escape and make it down to the planet to join their rebel friends in the abandoned rebel outpost, and then they wait for the First Order to attack. And of course, the First Order does attack with their walkers, the Empire walkers that we saw in The Empire Strikes Back, attacking the rebel base. It's just, everything's a mirror. These movies are just ripoffs. It's a total remake of the initial attack where in The Empire Strikes Back, the Empire finds the rebel base and attacks it with walkers. It's a total clone of that. So they attack, and of course, the rebellion finds discarded in the base a whole bunch of fighters. A whole bunch of ground fighters whose main job is to fly close to the ground and attack enemy ground troops. Isn't that amazing? Just like in the Empire Strikes Back, they got so lucky. Yeah, I'm sure the rebellion, which the real rebellion in the first movies, where Luke and Leia were young, and it was the actual rebellion, not this nonsense. I'm sure that they had so many supplies that they could afford to abandon working ships. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, so they fly out of the base and attack the walkers, and all these walkers are dragging this gigantic cannon. And the cannon is designed, of course, blow through these blast-proof doors that are guarding the inside of the base. And Finn, he decides to sacrifice himself. He says, I'm going to sacrifice myself, and I'm going to fly my ship right into the very emitter of that cannon and destroy it. So you see him. And this could have actually made the movie, at least the ending, a little more heartfelt. You go, okay, there's going to be a sacrifice here. I'm going to care more about this character. And it's a man, of course. So it's like, well, okay, a guy is going to actually sacrifice himself and be a hero. So he's flying toward that cannon. And all of a sudden, he gets hit from the side by another a fighter. And both of them crash way off to the side of where the walkers actually are. And it turns out the fighter is manned by a big, fat little Rose that was the sister of the page who had bombed and destroyed the dreadnought in the opening scene of the movie. And she says something along the lines of, we don't do that. We don't sacrifice ourselves. I'm like, what? What? What the fuck are you doing? Oh, this scene was so cringeworthy, I wanted to pull my fucking hair out. She says something like, we don't sacrifice ourselves. We save the ones we love, or some bullshit. And then she kisses Finn, and then she dies. So she's made herself into some kind of hero by saving the person she loves, meanwhile stopping Finn from being able to sacrifice himself. You know what the message was of that? You're a man. Men are not allowed to sacrifice themselves and be heroes in society. You do not get to be a hero as a man. Who are you to think that you can dash in at the very end and snatch glory out of the hands of women and be the hero of this movie as a man? You don't get to do that. Women have taken over. Women are in charge now. We're the heroes of the world. We're the Mary Sues. You take it and you like it. We will not let you be a hero. And it's at this point that the cannon gets up to full power and blasts the hole in the blast door. So fat little Rose essentially stopped Finn, the man, from being able to sacrifice himself. Of course! Now, cutscene to the inside of the old abandoned rebel facility, and you see Luke Skywalker suddenly appear and say hello to his sister, greet her, comment on her hair, and then he proceeds to walk outside through the hole that's been blasted in the door by the cannon that Finn could have destroyed, but fat little Rose, the little Chinese girl in another galaxy, stopped him. So Luke walks outside, proceeds to get blasted by about 1,000 blasts, but still survives. So Kylo Ren goes down, faces him. Very brief fight. I wouldn't call it a fight. Of course, everything we were hoping for was big fights with lightsabers, multiple lightsaber battles. No. This movie was a total letdown in every way. No lightsaber battles of any kind. Luke dodges a couple cuts from Kylo Ren. And then it turns out that Luke wasn't even there. That's right. It was just a projection, a force projection that Luke was projecting from all the way across the galaxy to the planet where the rebel base was. And it cutscenes and flashes to him. He's still on Acto. He's in a meditation stance. And it's taking all of his concentration and focus to project the image of himself there to face Kylo Ren, which gives the rebels in the base enough time to conveniently escape through an exit that nobody knew about except some dogs that had been living in the abandoned base, and they followed the dogs to an exit. And, of course, the exit was covered with rocks, of course, so they couldn't get out. Meanwhile, outside, Luke facing Kylo, Luke vanishes. Just like that. He couldn't hold it anymore. And on Octo, he collapses. And at the same time, Rey, believe it or not, yep, there's Rey. She's outside that collapsed entrance that the dogs managed to find a small hole to escape through. But all those rocks blocking the entrance, of course, the humans couldn't get through. I mean, there's just a little tiny hole that these dogs had been able to escape through because they were so small, these tiny little dogs. And Rey's out there. And, of course, yet again, the Daisy Sue that Rey is, the hero that she is, the woman that she is, she manages to use the Force to lift all these rocks, really boulders mostly, tons and tons of rocks, multiple tons, multiples of tons of rocks, by just holding her hand out, and it's not even bothering her. I mean, you look at it. Remember Luke, how hard a time he had in The Empire Strikes Back of lifting that X-Wing out of the water? He couldn't do it. But Rey, no problem. Snap your finger. 100 tons of boulders just whoosh up into the air and fly away. Isn't she so powerful with her whole 18 hours of Jedi training that involved all of, what? Luke telling her, stretch out with your feelings. Are you kidding me? And, of course, she's there with Chewie and the Millennium Falcon, and what's left of the Resistance, which is very few people, managed to board the Falcon, fly away. And at that point, once the boulders fly away, you have Rey and Finn finally reunited, and they hug, and it looks like there could possibly, maybe, perhaps, be some kind of future a relationship there, huh? Biracial couple, perhaps. Who knows, right? Because this is a social warrior, justice warrior jerk-off fest. So anything's possible as long as it's quote-unquote progressive. Yeah. And, of course, back on Octo, you have cutscenes between Luke on Octo and Leia and Rey, and cutting back and forth. And you have Luke. After he's collapsed, he manages to pull himself up with his last bit of strength and look at the sun and appreciate his last moments, and then he dies. just like Obi-Wan Kenobi did in the first movie. So essentially what he's done, he has sacrificed himself in exactly the same way as Obi-Wan did. Remember how Obi-Wan said he would become more powerful than Vader could ever imagine? Well, before he vanished, he said to Kylo Ren, if you kill me, I will become more powerful. I'll always be with you. Essentially, more or less the same line. And then you see Luke vanish. His body gets absorbed into the Force, just like Yoda's did, and just like Obi-Wan's body did. And his sister feels him die, and Rey feels him die, and they fly off. And that's essentially the end of the movie. As I said, zero imagination went into this movie. They just took little bits and pieces from the other movies, while the bulk of it was just The Empire Strikes Back. It was just horrible. Such a horrible movie. Ay, ay, ay. So, to summarize, Luke was the actual bad guy because his actions pushed Kylo Ren to the dark side fully and made him destroy the Jedi, which started this supposed chain of events which led to the destruction of the New Rebellion's government, okay, and the ascendance of the First Order. All the men in this movie were essentially bumbling idiots, and whenever they tried to do something, they fucked it up, and the women had to come in and set things right. First Admiral Purple Hair Hodo, then after her Leia, who, when she came out of her coma, stopped Poe Dameron and his quote-unquote mutiny and set things right and did the right thing, because what Poe wanted to do was the wrong thing. And in the beginning, you had the little Chinese girl bomber hero. Then her sister was supposedly a hero. She went to save Finn. And then even Luke, in the end, wasn't a hero. He showed up to try and give them a chance to escape. But why didn't he show up in person? I mean, the way he easily dodged the blows from Ren, he could have shown up in person and easily defeated Kylo Ren. And then it would have all been over. But oh no, this selfish man that he is. Yeah, he was too cowardly to go there by himself. He was too cowardly, yeah. You know what the real message of this was? I'm old. It's not my job to usher in a new era. I'm the problem. I caused the problems. I deserve to die. I need to sacrifice myself and die because I'm just a problem. I've caused too many problems. I need to let you young people take over and solve the problems I created, because I can't solve the problems. I'll just make them worse, like the old fogey fuck that I am. I am the problem. I'm a man. I'm an old white man. I just need to kill myself, essentially, sacrifice myself, so you guys can not only escape, but you can make things right. Because me coming here in person, I couldn't really have made things right. This movie is the worst movie I've ever seen. I think it even beats Howard the Duck, if that's possible. I don't know. But, I mean, at least Howard the Duck was original, right? Okay, yeah, talking duck from another universe, dimension, planet, whatever. At least it was somewhat humorous and original. This movie was just a total crappy knockoff of bits of the other movies with social justice warrior ideology thrown in and pushed down your throat, and it couldn't have been more obvious if they tried. This movie was nothing more than a vehicle to push that crap, and I hated it. Hated it. And if you haven't seen it yet, I recommend you don't waste your money, because if you go to see it, you will be very, very disappointed and out a lot of money with the amount of money that movie tickets cost these days, and with the popcorn and all the refreshments and everything else. You could end up spending a pretty penny on something that isn't worth the TP I wipe my ass with. Let me know what you thought of the movie in the comments section if you've already seen it. Please like and subscribe, and donate to my Patreon if you feel so inclined. You'll find a link both in the last 20 seconds of this video and in the description. I am the mgtowphilosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.